it's very important that we understand the time and the season, what God is doing. And I don't know about you, but I'm very excited to press in with the grace and the mercy of God, the help of the Holy Spirit. Because just like you, Ronnie can get distracted. And so I have to say, wait a minute, help me, Holy Spirit. You're saying there's deeper places in God that's been opened, greater than any other time in the history of mankind. I don't have time to be playing games, wasting my life on other stuff. Keep me focused and help me go there. So I'm trying to say, even as God is speaking to us about that, He wants to help us act on it. Because even with us knowing this knowledge or receiving it in our spirit and saying, I bear witness that that is truth. And therefore, I plan to do that. But it's almost like I see this huge gap between, okay, I know this and I receive this, and unfortunately, some people are shut down right there because they don't believe it, they don't know it, and they're not going to receive it. But that's not you. And so, but there is also, for us to receive that, there is this gap between that and actually acting on it. And in that gap, we must ask God to help us.
That's right.
This preacher included, help me. Because it goes beyond the church building and the church coming together, though that is important. But it goes into our daily life. And so may we all get that in our spirit, that there is that gap, but we're not going to let that gap remain between us and actually acting on it, because we're going to humble ourselves and cry out to God for help. Help Ronnie close that gap and actually act on it and discover those new places in you, so that in turn I become much more like you, prepared, and therefore become an agent that you flow through to consume the enemies of this culture.
Correct.
And the end result, souls.
Amen. Right. Amen.
That's for all of us. So God isn't just saying something to sound good and for us to feel good when we're together. He's saying something for us to act on, not only while we're together. It's important that we act on it together, because this is a safe place and a good place to practice.
Right.
Because we can't do it here, we're certainly not going to do it out there. But then out there, there's this gap, and we need the Lord to help us.
Amen.
So this word final, this word final, that's where we're going tonight. Final. Here in Ephesians 6, Paul's writing to the church at Ephesus, and he tells them the final word. I've got a final word for you. And as he's sharing this word, he opens up the clarity of the battle ground that we live in. And those who hear us preach very much at all know that I stress the fact that we as believers must keep in mind that we're on a battlefield.
Yeah.
We are absolutely on a battlefield, and that's why bad things happen to good people.
Yeah.
It's because it's an all-out war.
Yeah.
All-out war.
Yes, it is.
And so Paul says there's a final word. Anybody's final word is pretty important. Jesus's was go.
Yeah.
Go, make disciples, baptize in all nations. Go. And so that being Jesus' final words to us, it's absolutely imperative that our lives be spent accomplishing that through the help of the Holy Spirit, not religious,
Yeah.
I have to.
Yes.
Amen.
So that's where these deep places in God comes in, because it becomes a want to.
Amen.
So Paul says here, Ephesians 6, beginning with verse number 10, he says, a final word, be strong in the Lord and His mighty power.
Yeah.
Put on all of God's armor so that you will be able to stand firm against all the strategies of the devil. The enemy absolutely strategizes how to make life tough, hard, difficult for us, period, and ultimately to actually close that gap, go to the deeper places of God, and become an instrument for God, who is a consuming fire and is not just countering the enemy but consuming him, for us to be vessels from which He flows out of in consuming fashion to break down the hold of this antichrist culture and bring Christ with breakthrough into it, so that souls are pulled out of this
Yeah.
clouded mind where they have ears and they're not hearing, and they have eyes and they're not seeing.
Yeah.
That's why earlier I said that we as believers, we must have ears to hear and eyes to see. Beyond just the fact that we understand that for non-believers, but as Christians, our eyes have been opened, our ears have heard, and we have received the gospel and we're saved, but there's more.
Yeah.